and welcome back to Productivity for Perfectionists, how to stop procrastinating, quiet your inner critic, and love getting it done. I'm your host, Deborah Hurwitz, and today I'm here with a super special expert, Jasmine Sandler, part artist, part entrepreneur. We're going to hear some great stuff from her. Thank you so much for being here, Jasmine.
Yes, thanks for having me on, Deborah. I'd rather be nowhere else on a Friday.
Nowhere else on a Friday.
Except for with you.
Well, gosh. Let's share with everybody.
Different on a Friday, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
This is it. I'm excited.
Awesome. So this is, let me just share a little bit with our audience about you, Jasmine. Jasmine is CEO of JS Media, is a proven leader in personal branding and social media marketing. She has trained, consulted, and delivered social media keynote presentations to tens of thousands of executives and entrepreneurs around the globe. Her digital marketing and media company provides social media education and training, advisory services, marketing programs, and live events. Jasmine is a best-selling author on several books on social media and personal branding for business. She's also a rock and blues singer and lyricist and has a passion for supporting creative professionals. Jasmine holds 2 magna cum laude MBAs in marketing and computer information systems. She's supported company clients in digital marketing, including Sony Music, IBM, AT&T, Johnson & Johnson, Roche Diagnostics, Hewlett-Packard, Medtronic, and countless member organizations. And then we have a whole bunch of website info and things like that that are all on this page down here where everybody's going to be able to click on that. So yay, this is a great marriage of the music side, the entrepreneurial side, and then all of this fantastic practical information on actual branding, social media. This is definitely a hot topic for our artists and entrepreneurs in the audience. So really thank you for that. And I want to jump right in. I've been joking about how with these interviews, I'm getting to like personally pick the brains of all these experts for my own selfish uses. And, and this is no exception. I want to jump in first with questions about LinkedIn, because you have so many areas of expertise, but LinkedIn is a big one.
Yep.
People, LinkedIn selling, LinkedIn marketing. And I want to just come right into the space that I know I find myself in all the time, which is I'm a perfectionist, I'm a professional, things have to look a certain way, I can't do it piecemeal, and yet when I look at the whole thing, it's an overwhelming bunch of stuff to update my LinkedIn profile, right? And I know that there are tons of people, I have clients, friends, colleagues who are all like, oh, got to do my LinkedIn profile, got to do my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to someone who is coming from this kind of perfectionistic, all or nothing thinking, I have to do everything or I won't do anything, I have to do it perfectly or I won't do it at all? And yet, like, is it valuable to just do something even if you can't do everything? Like, what's our starting point for doing something like an overhaul of the LinkedIn profile?
So it's interesting that you start with LinkedIn, because I just did a training yesterday of a whole executive team on LinkedIn. And I'm always talking to different people about it, from executives down to entrepreneurs. And it's funny, an executive for 20, 30 years experience and an entrepreneur have the same exact challenges. So I'll start with that. And it is about getting started, but it is about getting started in the right way. So I'm a big believer in effective strategy and planning. It's most of the work that I do in general.
Good.
You know, and I've worked with a lot of artists, and not just musicians, actually artists. And, you know, the biggest issue I see with all of them that I've ever worked with is that, just like you said, they have a hard time getting things done. And so when we talk about LinkedIn, for example, the simplest thing to do, usually what I have my clients do when I walk through training, is first determine what your strengths are and what your focus is. And even if you give that a little bit of time and you change your headline, just honestly, it's like the simplest thing. For something, you can say, this is me, this is my brand, this is my, what I call your gift, because that's why I love personal branding. It's all about deriving people's gifts. So, you know, if you could just start with that and put something on paper. I mean, honestly, that is like so minuscule, it's not even funny.
Well, we'll put it off for years. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's like scratching the surface. But I have found with thousands of clients that I've worked with, once something gets done, even if it's small, and they see traction, it's the key, right? Because I'm a 100% action-oriented person.
Yes.
And so I try to have people kind of absorb that for me when I train them, when I work with them.
Yeah.
Because I want them to take action. I don't want to give advice and then it just goes in one ear out the other kind of thing.
Exactly.
So, you know, so it's just about taking action on something small, but thinking about it first with no distractions. So what I do is I just actually published a pretty long piece on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and I encourage you to read it because there's a tons of tips in it. It's on why your LinkedIn profile can change your entire career.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyways, the reason I wrote it is because my company, JS Media, just reincorporated with all these several brands underneath it. But I didn't do anything until I took time on the weekend, because that's how I work. I took a blank whiteboard and I just wrote the 3 things that I want to accomplish. Right? So just try to make it doable, specific, measurable, you know, and feel good about it before you actually put pen to paper.
So one of the things, this is really helpful. So some really important principles that we talk about a lot: starting small, micro stepping, I call it, or, you know, baby step, that slight edge thing, right? That and to pick 1 or 2 things to focus on, 2 or 3 things to focus on. I love just the headline, right? Just the headline. In terms of things like,
because I know artists. That's why. Sorry, I know. Believe me.
Yeah. So in terms of choosing something that's like just the headline or just those 1 or 2 things, what do we say to those people who are feeling that? And this has been me in the past, feeling that pull of like, sure, I could focus on just those 2 things, but I can't figure out what my headline is until I have those 10 things in place, and that'll tell me what the headline is. Or I can't pick the 2 or 3 most important things because I don't know. Like, as soon as you said to me, a LinkedIn profile upgrade done the right way can change my career, that doesn't feel like good news to me. That feels like scary as shit. Now I got to do it just right, right? Like, as a perfectionist, that's like, oh shit, now I want to make sure I really do it right. So how do we pick, and then I also want to come back to think about it first with no distractions is really great, right? Like, to give yourself the space to actually dig into.
So what I do in like my action workbook and everything, in terms of really defining what those strengths are, that will become who you are defined as, your headline that will be substantiated through your experience. Because right now this is a quick interview, you know, but of course. But what I generally have my clients do is, number 1, they have to get, and I hate this, it's such a buzzword, but it's true, get authentic and real and introspective with themselves. That's step 1. Step 2 is to ask people that really know them. That's critical.
I love that.
Because look, it's like, I've been a business owner for 15 years, right? And so every time I reevaluate my business, or you reevaluate your artist career, you have to really sit down and think about, what are the things that people, why do they gravitate towards me? What am I making money off of?
Yes.
What's so special? Again, I'm going to go back to the gift. What is it about you that you have this gift? Everyone is different.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And you know what? I love also, sorry to interrupt, I'm just going to back and forth a little bit, but I agree with you. Authentic is like a really abused word at this point. And I just want to break that down, because all we're saying when we say authentic, especially in the way that you're using it, is it's just be yourself, right? What's really you. If you were to pull back the whole, I need to look or sound like this person, or that's what that great Facebook profile or that website looks like, so I should try to copy that, right? If you pull away all that and pull away the perfection, like I have to be everything to all people, or I have to have everything in place. We were talking just before we started recording, like, I coach people on productivity. That doesn't mean I never procrastinate, or I always get everything done that I say I will every day, right? Of course not. Doesn't mean I don't have my workaholism and all the things that come down, right? So authentic, just kind of being who you really are, real and introspective. I love that you said introspective, and asking people that really know you, right? It's like, that can be terrifying as hell for someone.
Right. I mean, I got to tell you, I've had so many clients that just that exercise, it takes them weeks. And then, but then when they do it, and these are all perfectionists, and then when they do it, they're elated. Yeah. And they can move forward. It's like anything in life, you know, the more that you are afraid, it's actually the better, because that's a signal that you're probably going down the wrong path. And that's why this is so important, actually, I think.
Say more about that. The more that you're afraid, the better, because it's a signal that you're going down the wrong path. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So the more that you're hesitating to do something and make a change, and because I do personal branding for entrepreneurs and executives. Yes. So the number 1 thing I say is, I don't want to work with you unless you're ready to commit. You have to commit to yourself. Like, you have to be able to you have to be able to say, okay, I'm on path A, I might go to path B. And maybe path B means I might lose an audience, or whatever. You know what I mean? If you go from a jazz singer to a blues singer, or a blues singer to a rap singer, or opera. These are all, right? I don't have to tell you, all different, practices, but under the same vein. So the same thing goes with business. You could go from a financial services advisor to an accountant, or a bookkeeper. It's, you know what I mean? So the point is you have to really listen to what others say and listen to yourself, to what resonates with you, to what gets you excited, right? And you got to be 100% confident in that. And so the confidence, the commitment, they kind of go hand in hand.
Well, and that's, confidence is a super tricky word, and we'll come back to that in a second, because it's like when you say you have to be confident in it, let's just make sure we're speaking to those people who are using the confidence thing as an excuse to procrastinate. It's not that you're confident about what you're doing before you've done it, like actually committing to the course of action, taking that action based on what you understand to be true through the introspection, through the talking to other people. That's the process you're talking about, committing to. That itself will generate the confidence, right? Like, just like you say, people are scared to death to talk to other people. Then when they finally do, after they're so worried about the rejection and the criticism and whatever else they think is coming, they find out that they're actually lovable after all, right? And then it's like, oh, that wasn't so hard. But I want to know more about when you say, if you're afraid that's a good thing, it means you're going down the wrong road, or the more you're hesitant to go down the road, the better. I just want to understand better what you mean about that, because of course what we're trying to do here is actually help people break through a lot of that fear and go for it. And you're saying, wait, if you're scared, that might be an indication that you are on the wrong path. So I want to make sure I understand what you're saying with that.
Oh, 100%. So I think, before we started filming here, we were talking, I've been in business for a really long time as a business owner.
Yeah.
And so, as a business owner, and people can lie, but here's the truth about being a business owner. You're going to fail a million times. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to want to quit. Your perfectionist mind will make you think you want to quit because you're not achieving these goals that you think you're entitled to, right? I'm just going to put it that way, because I get it. I'm a very introspective, although vocal person, And so if you know, everybody, I believe, has a good gut instinct, especially if you are a perfectionist, because I find with perfectionists that they're thinkers and doers at the same time. It's an interesting mix. And so if you have signals and you have gut instincts that something is scaring you, but you think it might be the right path, and your fear is coming from the fact that, which is normal for a business owner, I've put in X amount of time into this and it's not working, you see, then, I want to make a change, but I could lose a lot. I could lose my reputation. I could lose my brand. I could lose my money. I could lose blah, 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 blah. It's actually good, because that is good news. Okay. You have to be like, a lot of speakers talk about like jumping off a cliff.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it's just growing. It's like your next step, your evolution in yourself. And
it's almost like the fear is an indicator that there are stakes. There's something at stake for you, and that's, generally speaking, a good thing, because that means that it's close to something you actually care about, something that matters to you.
That's right. That's why a million successful people say the same thing. They say, you never know how close you are to success if you're just going to give up. Like it's like this curve. So and that's why, you asked how you come up with your strengths, how you make these decisions. And again, it goes back to you're trusting yourself, but at the same time talking to your audience, because they're the ones that are going to tell you what's great about you. And hopefully they're going to tell you what they don't like about what you're doing. And that's your job.
Excuse me.
Your job, right?
And let's just distinguish for the people who are terrified to ask other people, that even though you might be asking someone, and I've been through this in so many ways, I know exactly what you're talking about, even though we're saying, like, what do you think of me, essentially, or what do you think are my strengths, or what do you you're asking for feedback, and it's totally understanding that's terrifying. At the end of the day, it's actually not personal, in the sense that it's not like people are saying who you are at your essence is not acceptable to me, right? Like I like that. You're right. If there's somebody that you're thinking to ask, likely that person accepts you on some fundamental level. So the critique is not going to be personal. It's not going to be like, let me call somebody who hated my guts in high school and ask them what. No, like you're talking to friends, colleagues, people who, and there were so many people that hated my guts in high school.
To them. So what I got to say about those people.
Right. But yeah, exactly. So, but you know, speaking to people who you trust, whose judgment you trust, who you know you have some sort of affinity or rapport with, there's a baseline acceptance. Like you can set your worthiness conversation aside so that you can take in the information that's coming, and you can even frame it. Like you can say, like, in the context of something that's not going to like wound me to the core personally, I really do want to improve my social media platform or my professional presence. You know, what do you, as we say in NLP, there's a great way of doing it. What do you like? What do you think is working? And what would you like to see more of? Right? What would you like to see more of? Or as opposed to what's wrong or what's, you know, and so you take out anything that might be sort of, you know, a personal effect. And just get the information, right? In the context of, I support you. I want you to succeed. I dig your good stuff, right? Let's have more of the good stuff. So the whole getting feedback from others can be such a minefield for perfectionists, especially the people.
Well, it's true because I'll tell you this, and I don't know if you agree at all, but with creative professionals, like I have an entire chapter in one of my books dedicated to creative professionals because I was like just sick and tired of them not listening. So, and that is for who's ever listening to this. If you're a creative professional, you'll be so much more successful in your career if you're open-minded. Like it's just, I want to save you all. Please, like open up your ears and listen because you can learn a lot from other people, and also don't doubt that you can't do something. Like a lot of creative professionals think, well, I'm the best artist. I'm the best this. Okay, that's great. And I can't do business. Well, yeah, you can, you know. So you don't have to be perfect at everything. It's actually impossible. And perfection in itself is a myth, you know, so.
Of course. You're just saying so much at once. And I just want to like unpack it a little bit because this is gold, especially for artists and people who are defined by what they're making and creating, right? Which is so many kinds of creative professionals, but whether it's specifically art, like a physical art project or, you know, a piece of music or something, or you're creating content, courses, training, teaching, you're creating healing and well-being, whatever it is, right? Like, so much of the time, you're really drawing the parallels that become the catch-22 that a lot of artists struggle with. That is, I'm doubting what I can do, and I'm unwilling to be flexible where I think that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's a whole lot of constriction and rigidity that ends up feeling like failure and paralysis. And so what you're talking about is saying, do have the faith, the security, build your confidence in your strengths, in your art, in your point of view, what it is you're trying to say. But when it comes to a point of view for like how you should market or what you need to be good at in order to grow a business, that's where you want to be open-minded and defer to the professionals the same way you would want people to defer to you in your strengths if you want to sing or write a book or whatever it is, right?
And well, listen, it's 100% because, you know, I told you when I started singing, the first band I was in was a metal band. I love all music. Like when I tell you I love all music, we could talk music for hours. Like every single genre I like. But so anyway, the point is, you know, I left that band because they were not nice people, and now I'm doing more jazz and blues. And I was just open-minded. I was like, I don't need to do one genre, you know. And actually, I like what I'm doing now better than before, and I've evolved. Yes. And I think that is like, that's what I try to tell creative professionals. Just because you've been painting for 20 years doesn't mean now that you can't do whatever, graphic design or custom print or whatever. You know what I mean? Because you have to also be aware of what the market bears. You know what I mean?
It's so funny that you say that because when I started my career, and it was well before social media, it was practically before the internet, but I'm so freaking old. But that was something that I was actually much more committed to making a living as a professional in the music business and theater business than I was to being this particular kind of artist or that particular kind of artist. That was before any words like personal branding were even a phrase, right?
Yeah, so right.
For me, it was like whatever the hell they'll pay me for. So I learned to be a lot of different things, right? People go to my website and like, that's so much different stuff. I was like, had to pay the rent. So I just learned how to do a bunch of shit, right? Yeah. because
Yes.
my commitment, my mission statement was make a living in my chosen field. Later on, I went to the place of like, what is my artistic voice? What is my authentic message? And that was a whole different set of questions. So you're saying like, be open to what works, right? And whether that's you expanding your skill set to meet the market, or you taking feedback from people who care about you to be able to understand it's not personal, right? Like, so let me ask you as a specific example. Let's take a LinkedIn profile or any sort of like personal branding piece, and we're going to come to personal branding in a second, and then go to your artist piece. Where have you, like you, Jasmine, in your travels, and I can hear how you've helped so many people and been frustrated by so many people, where have you felt in yourself that pull of like, my inner critic is yammering at me and I'm having a crisis of self-confidence or self-doubt, versus I kind of know what I need to do here, or I'm getting feedback, but I'm scared? Like, where has that kind of conflict come up for you internally, and how have you solved it?
All the time. But
I know everybody does this. I ask because when we position these experts, it's like, well, you're an expert, you don't have an inner critic. Like, yeah, you do. We totally do.
No, I think my inner critic is huge.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
It's right here all the time. It's all good. I'm like back in the Flintstones. Remember, they had the kazoo and he would sit here.
Exactly.
But anyway, so many times over, I'll start just with owning a business, which I had a meeting today with a potential client and a friend in financial services who's with a small wealth management firm, and he's like, oh, I'm trying to develop my business, and I said, listen, running a business is hard. Just don't kid yourself. So just be real about it. So I'll just start with owning a business. So I can say with owning a business, it's been one side of running a business, even if it's a creative professional career, it doesn't matter, has to be logical, right? And the other side is creative. And I'm more creative in my essence, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So the inner critic kind of tells me, I have very high standards, right? As the people on this do, right? Our audience here.
Absolutely.
My high standards are, if you're not making, 7 figures, if you don't have a family, you're not doing this, you're crap, That's how I was raised. And I'm sure a lot of people were raised that way, right?
Yes.
So you're running a business, which is a risk, right? So my inner critic would say, oh, just stop doing this business. And this is a general statement, you should be getting a executive job, blah, 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 blah. I've had them before, and so the way that I always come back to my own like truth point, I guess I'll call it, is a couple of things. I honestly think this might sound insane, that God will tell you what you're supposed to do, because every time, I am not kidding, Deborah, every single time I've had so many ups and downs with this business, because I went through the 2008, 2009 recession with this business. I've gone through having 10 people on payroll to barely surviving with this business by myself. It's been insane. So I always kind of come back to this point, this truth point. And so many times through owning a business, just like you would anytime you're 10 years of trying to be a successful artist, right? If you say, well, I should just be doing this because this is what society tells me, or my little inner voice, what's going to happen? I have found, and I'm just talking about for myself, that I'll go out there and I'll interview for jobs, and what they offer me is a joke to me. And I'll say, oh, why can't somebody just pay me what I'm worth, right? And so what's happened is every single time I've come close to leaving the business and taking on some executive position, it didn't work out. And then what happens, and then the second thing that happens is some client will come on board without me even trying. So it's like, it's pointing you, it's like a ship, it's like pointing you in this direction where you're supposed to be. So that voice, is complicated. And that's why I'm kind of going through this, because that voice sometimes is not, especially perfectionists. In my own, I love psychology. So in my own study of psychology, a lot of times your inner voice isn't coming from you. It's coming maybe from your background, your parents, all this stuff. Yeah. So sometimes you have to stand your ground against your inner voice to be able to accomplish something. Listen, even if you fail, if you feel it's the right road, you know, you could keep trying. You know, you're only gonna fail if you don't try at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I battle that inner voice every single day as a business owner, every day. There isn't a night or a morning that I'm not battling it.
Yeah, I got it. I really thank you for sharing that. And I want to poke around a little bit with something that you just said, because you and I did not discuss the phrase high standards, but it's like the first thing that I say to kind of qualify my audience. And like, you're in the right place at the right time if you have high standards for success. That's like that number one, you know, barrier to entry is like, have high standards, because that's a little hint that there's some perfectionism going on there that might also be getting in your way. The high standards are of course desirable, right? But then you get all that other backwash that comes along with it. And so you're speaking to something really interesting. And if I'm understanding you correctly, you're kind of saying like, if you have high standards, then that points to a desire, right? Like you want things to be good, you want things to be great, you want you to be good and great. And then in that case, because it matters that things be good or great, it matters that you achieve that dream or you accomplish that goal, then any risk to that, like being an entrepreneur, like a failure, like a setback, is a huge trigger for the inner critic. That's going to send that voice forward going, don't try that, don't do that, you should just do that safe thing, right? Which is what you were describing in like you towards a job interview, right? Maybe I should just settle for this little piece of the pie over here, that's not so bad, that'll be fine, right? And then you're like, and then the gig doesn't work out and some great client walks in the door, which puts your intuition back on the map, right? And that's been a huge part of my journey also, is discerning the difference between that inner critic and that voice of intuition, right? Like, how do I know if it's my fear talking? That's why I was drilling down so hard to like, what do you mean if you're afraid you're on the wrong path? What does that mean? Because it's like, is this the voice of intuition or is this the voice of the inner critic? Is this a voice I want to follow or a voice I want to fight? And it can be sometimes really hard to tell, but what you're talking about is putting those markers like, do you have high standards for success? Okay, great. Recognize that's going to make something feel high stakes. And that if you enter risk into the process, your inner critic is going to go apeshit.
Well, absolutely.
Start telling you, back off, not safe.
But I got to tell you, I just want to tell you something else. So I have a good friend of mine who oh my God, she's so talented. Actually, I said to her, I only hang out with talented people. That's my new mission in life. It's the truth. I just like talented people. But so anyway, so she's an off-Broadway composer, writer. She's so goddamn talented, right? She's a friend of mine, and so, you know, she needs advice, I just give it to her, whatever. And so I went to her show, her first, like, whatever they call, I don't even know what it's called, like reading, or whatever it's called.
Reading, yep.
Yeah, whatever. So all the pieces of the puzzle didn't work out for her that night. Yeah. Like the right actors, like, were sick, and then the venue was crap. But you know what? She was like me, like, she just kicked ass and completely performed and was amazing. So afterwards, I saw her and I gave her a big hug and I took a picture and I'm like, oh my God, you are amazing, right? She's like, no, Jasmine, you are. I'm like, no, you are. So I said, you did what a creative professional has to do to succeed, which is go through during adversity and shine, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, as I found out with like these film directors and all these artists, you know, there's these budgets and things they're always worried about. But I just keep telling her, just keep going, because you're talented. You know, you just gotta really believe in yourself and keep going. And if you keep going, eventually the right things will fall into place, you know? So,
2 things in what you're saying that are so important that I really want to call attention to. Number one, making the point that during adversity to shine, like to take those challenges in stride and be able to move past them. We hear that a lot, right? It's like, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, or like should thrive under pressure. It can be like really intimidating, like I crumble, right? But what you're talking about is recognizing that these challenges and adversity are part of the process for any artist, any human, right? You can have like a cushy corporate gig. I have a whole wing of clients who have like high paying corporate gigs. They're still dealing with lots of struggles and challenges based on what they're generating from the inside.
Well, of course.
And their experience of how that's happening on the outside, right? So you're talking about welcoming the adversity, because this is a chance to actually have an experience that will then give you the confidence. Look what I did. Look how I made it through that, and I'm still breathing. That's a win. right? And to welcome those opportunities to shine so you can actually prove to yourself, right? So you can show up as, wow. I talk about this all the time with my clients, that you're building a relationship with yourself.
Oh yeah.
It's
the most important one you can have.
Right. And so it's not like, oh crap, something's coming and it's bad and it's going to be hard and I might fall or fail. It's adversity is coming. That's part of life. So the process of me making my way through that is something I'm going to take on and look forward to, because on the other side of that, I'm going to feel awesome, pat on the back, take myself out for ice cream, right? Like, you get to celebrate the win. That's number one. And then that number two piece that you're talking about that I think is really important is we do need to surround ourselves with kindred spirits, with like-minded souls, with people who will say, yeah, you know what, truthfully, that looked like it wasn't so much fun for you, but you did great and you're still here. Good job. Right. And so, you know, what did you learn for next time? You know, and to have those cheerleaders in our lives, those people who do have our backs. And if we have an environment, whether it's a peer colleague or family friend or geographical environment that's not super supportive to it, we have the internet, for God's sakes. Like, if you guys are watching this, you obviously have internet access, right? So find your people. And this series is that for some people. I know that there are a lot of people out there who don't have the home support or the support built into their daily lives to say, you know what, that's okay. Challenge is part of it. You don't have to be perfect. It can be a shitty first draft. Just keep going. Do the headline on your LinkedIn profile, for God's sakes. Something.
It's funny because you know it's crazy. Back in I don't know what it was. So I owned and sold a social network back in 2000 and 2003.
Yep.
So I mean, I've been in this game for way too long. But anyway, so really. I swear I remember writing on a piece of paper when it was called Extreme Connections, because I love sports. So, and I used to be an aggressive inline skater. But anyway, so I remember writing on a piece of paper, challenges equal opportunities and problems equal solutions. And I remember putting that on my wall. Now what I have on my wall is a $1 bill where I took a magic marker and made all the zeros. So it's 1 billion, because that's my goal. So, but it's true. It's like, you know, that's what it's for. And every time you're in it, it feels like crap, right? The challenge, the problem. But if you could try to just like look on the other side of it.
Yeah. What's on the other side?
That's
so great. Jasmine, we're
on the other side of it, or just thinking about what you just did. Like when I did a couple of like my singing shows, people are like, oh my God, it's really good. And now I'm like, I want to do better. I want to do better, instead of saying, hey, you know what? That was really good.
Yeah.
So I think for creative professional, you have to do that.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up the singing thing, because I really want to get to that before and we're already at a half an hour. It goes so fast all the time, but I really do want to hear a little bit about, because what's especially cool about your singer-songwriter identity is that, unlike a lot of artists that I know that move into entrepreneurial spaces out of their artistic background, it's like, I was in my 20s, I was touring, I was working 30 hours a day on production. Now I want like a life where I'm in charge of my destiny. It's sort of a parallel to my story, but you have been in the business world for a long time. And now just on the more recent side, you've branched out now and added this singer-songwriter portfolio. Please tell us a little bit about that, because I know there are a lot of people in this audience who have some sort of business or job or whatever it is that they're doing, and their passion is in being some sort of artist or performer. What are the first steps? Tell us a little bit about what that was for you.
Well, I think it's natural. Not that I'm great, but I'm just going to tell you how I got here.
Yeah.
So I have, to this point, I think, done over 500 keynote speeches and presentations and trainings.
Wow.
At least.
Yeah.
So I like being on stage, right?
Yeah.
I figured that out. And I'm like, wait, I think I like being on stage. So, but I'm the worst. I would never be an actress. I tried a HB studio class and they said, go act. And I gave them the money. I just ran out. I was so scared. So that is not for me. No way. Actors, that's a whole, I don't know how they do it. But what happened was I love music. I think I was born into music. I went to symphonies and operas when I was a little kid. My whole family, I just love music, right? I'm really, really into music. I always hang out with musicians. I've known a lot of famous musicians.
Yeah.
And there's pictures of me like as a teenager, like pretending to play the drums and pretending to this, but I never did it. Because I never thought, like, I was raised to be a business professional.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to play music and I always got shut down.
Mm.
So what happened was a couple of years ago, I found this woman and I was like, you know what? I want to play guitar. So I started taking guitar lessons and I was just like, ugh, I don't like it. And then I was maybe 2 years into the guitar lessons, and this band 3 Days Grace that I love, one of their songs, you know, I was learning the song and I said, listen, can I sing the song? She was like, okay. She said, well, I'm not a vocal coach. I'm like, I don't care. Just give me the basics. So she taught me the song. I quit guitar. And even though I was so fearful because there's so many amazing singers, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And people are like, oh yeah, right. You're a singer, you know, all doubting me. I'm like, okay, good. Keep doubting me because then I'm really going to do it. So I've only been, you know what I mean?
That. Keep doubting me because then I'm really going to do it.
That should be a bumper sticker. But anyway, so the point is like, you know, I kept doing it. And to be honest with you, I'm just a go-getter. So I knew I wanted to do it. So I would go to auditions with bands and they're like senior musicians. And they're like, who the hell are you? Do you know what pitch is? Do you know what ear training? I'm like, no. And now I do. Now I've been through it all. But you know, I got like rejected from a lot of bands. I was in bands and then I got thrown out and the guys were complete asses. But I kept going. I just kept going. And then I said, my birthday this year, I'm like, I'm going to play a show. I'm going to lead a show. So I had this band and they didn't want to play out. And I was like, well, I do. And I designed everything because we do music marketing. So we did we did everything, the name, the illustration, the website, everything. I booked the venue. I packed the venue and we're the headliner.
Amazing.
And my family came, which is the best because they're the ones that are like, don't you music? Yeah, right. And they showed up. So to me, that was the best part, you know?
Oh, that's amazing. What a great story. How long ago was this show?
So the show was November 9th, and then that band didn't work out. And I was depressed for like 2 weeks. And then I said, screw this. Why am I depressed? I believe in myself. And since then, I've created another band. I've been writing songs, and we had our first show, which helped raise money for Planned Parenthood. It was a donation show, which even felt better because I was doing something good.
Oh, what generosity.
It was a story that had a lot of emotion. You know what I mean? So I think music it's like the number one, it's the best thing in life, in my personal opinion. It is just, it's like godlike. I love music, so.
Yeah. This is a beautiful story. There's so much inspiring goodness in that story, Jasmine, about just, you know, your fire and your fierceness and taking all these things along the way that could have been your reason not to, and they became your reason to, you know, and pulling your expertise together to actually build the entire thing. You built the campaign, you booked the venue, you filled the venue, like you produced the shit out of that, and then you headlined it. And that's really great. What an inspiring example. For like everyone in here who would have every reason not to do whatever it is that is lighting them up, and just to follow your bliss there with what you like and don't like, and that you've found things along the way that you're like, oh, I noticed that I like being on stage. I love music. Let me see if I can play guitar. Okay, I don't love guitar. Can I sing? Let me see if I can sing. Right, and you're just checking stuff out and taking that next step, and then going big with something and being willing to tolerate the risk. Right? Like that could, and your family showed up and they liked it.
They were actually, my sister-in-law was dancing. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, what a great feeling that must have been.
Cool is that, right? Honestly, that was to me the best part of the show, just seeing her there dancing. I was like, this is it, you know? It's the little things in life, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I really love that your free gift has to do with personal branding, because I know that people are going to want a lot more about that. We got into just the tip of the iceberg on that one. I'm so glad that people got to hear a little bit about your story. The free gift link is down here. Personal branding, what are you calling it? Sorry, personal branding action plan. Bless your heart for being all about action and getting things done. Yes. So personal branding action plan is down here. Click on that to get more of Jasmine. And Jasmine, thank you so much for this time and for some really, really great counsel.
Thank you, Deborah. Now you're officially in my talent circle. So
yes, I'm in the talent circle. Awesome. All right, everybody. This has been Jasmine Sandler. I'm your host, Deborah Hurwitz. Come back tomorrow for our next episode of Productivity for Perfectionists. We'll see you then. Bye.